I love my job, but I was never supposed to be here. But occasionally I get questions asking, how can I get a job like mine? Well, these jobs are really rare. Teaching jobs, permanent teaching jobs in academia are very rare and very difficult to get hold of, which means that when they are advertised, there's a lot of competition. My job is also at a doctoral level, so I've got a PhD. I'm a scientist. I did a 3-year BSc, a science degree, anatomical sciences, and then followed that up. I did 3 years of a PhD, doing some original research, and then I went into research. This is what I mean about I wasn't supposed to be here. I was supposed to be doing research, not teaching. This job is almost entirely teaching. So if you want to do the job that I do, you'll need a doctorate, and that could be a PhD or it could be a medical degree, MB, BCH, MBBS, a medical doctorate. But you can get into anatomy teaching at a tutor level where you might not need a doctorate. I was lucky. I was asked to apply for this job by somebody that I knew. I guess maybe I'd already developed a good reputation for hard work and getting stuff done, I think. So you've got to develop links and contacts and reputation and CV just to get your foot in the door, but it helps if you know people in the industry, if you know relevant people that might be making jobs available. And that's another interesting point, actually. I can talk about this not from my own experiences, well, not just from my own experiences of applying for this job, not really having much experience, and what I used in the interview to demonstrate that I could do this job. But since then, I've built a team, and I have written the job specifications, written the job adverts, reviewed the CVs and personal statements and applications, interviewed and selected people to work as anatomy lecturers. So I'm on the other side now. As an employer, I am happiest if somebody is recommended to me. If somebody who knows the job, somebody I know hopefully, who knows the job and knows the applicant and suggests putting the two together and says this person is good, that gives me the most confidence. But with any job application process, that's only part of it, because we are very much not restricted, but we're tied to looking at the criteria we've laid out across all of the applicants, seeing who ticks those boxes best and then bringing them to interview and then asking a set series of questions, the same questions or very similar questions to all the applicants, and seeing who answers the questions most appropriately. So getting your foot in the door, being recommended, that's a good way of getting you to interview and ticking some of those boxes, and it makes the employer very happy, but you've still got to tick all those other boxes as well. And those other boxes are demonstrating you know the subject, demonstrating that you have experience of teaching, and that sort of thing. Let's go back to my office. I can have a sit down. So what experiences of teaching did I have that I could talk about? I got this job when I was 28, about to turn 29, and I'd been a researcher, so not many. Does anybody else do this? I've got a ghost here. It's my microscope. Does anybody else do this? Does anybody do live microscope teaching videos on YouTube? By live, I mean, instead of looking at photos, looking at a slide and moving around. Most histology teaching is done with photos, and I think if you look at the slide and zoom in, you get a better understanding of where everything is, right? See, I'm a teacher now. So what teaching did I talk about? Well, I mean, during my PhD, I had been a histology demonstrator. So I think I had been taking medical students and dental students, I think, through the histology part of their programs. So as a demonstrator, you have a lead teacher, you're in a practical lab, everybody's got microscopes, everybody's looking down the microscope at slides, and then the demonstrators would help them find the cells, use the microscope, focus and that sort of thing. So I did have a few years of histology demonstrating, which is one example of teaching. So that's kind of helpful. The other one I talked about, yeah, I don't really recommend. At university, Kim and I taught ourselves how to climb. Terrible idea. Back in the day, that was how you did it. Now there's, you could go to climbing walls and things and get taught. I mean, there's still a way. That's probably how most people learn how to climb. We taught ourselves how to climb. We made climber friends. We learned from them. We taught each other. We were very thoughtful about what we were doing. And, because it's safety, right? That's the thing about climbing that you're learning, is the safety aspect. So I talked in my interview about an example of my teaching being how that, not so much that I taught myself, but that I taught friends. Friends wanted to climb, so I taught them how to climb. And that's quite interesting because, well, your life is in their hands, literally. So you are doing risk assessments and stuff in your head. You're not writing this stuff down, but you're thinking about how you teach, how to place gear, how to create belays, how to belay, how to handle the rope, how to tie into the rope, how to check that you've tied into the rope properly, how to clip properly and not back clip, and 100 things that we take for granted. But when you're teaching somebody else how to climb and how to manage your safety, because you're working as a pair on a route, you figure out how to teach in a very effective manner. And I think that was actually a more powerful example than like the official demonstrator work that I'd done. Because you talk about a lot of the skills of teaching, don't you? You think about what you need to cover. You build your knowledge around that. It's a very practical, visual, physical thing, but you're also teaching words because you're talking about the names of the things that you're using. And then you're testing by actually doing the thing. There are some really solid teaching principles in there, which is probably why I think of myself as a common sense teacher, because I've always done it. And I guess I figured it out. And a lot of what I do now, I think, is still common sense. But when I look at teacher training things, it kind of all joins up a little bit. I've always got things to learn about teaching. Okay, given all that, what advice do I have about trying to get a job like mine? Experience is key. Experience ties into all of those things that I talked about. Can you volunteer to teach anatomy or teach whatever you're interested in? For example, here at Swansea University, we teach a number of courses, and we tend to split our student groups up into smaller groups, and we need a lot of teachers to run those smaller groups. So there might be one person running that small group session, but say if we've got half a dozen cadavers out, we will need other teachers to help the students find what they need to find. So a demonstrator role, right? A teacher support role. Now, of course, if we're talking about volunteering, this tends to be not paid, but actually we get a lot of surgical trainees coming in to do this, because this helps them with their anatomical knowledge, because they've got more exams to pass. And it's good for us because we've got more teachers, those guys are closer to the learners and stuff. But volunteering to teach, well, it's useful because you find out if you actually like teaching or not, as well as developing a lot of teaching skills, as well as giving yourself a lot of teaching experience to talk about in your job interview, to write down in your CV and your personal statement. That's a big thing. So when we're interviewing medical students at the moment for places on the medicine course, and the big things we're interested in are, do you really understand the job of medicine? Is it really for you? What can you talk about in terms of your experiences? What are the good sides of the job and the bad sides of the job? What have you seen? Have you really figured this out? So volunteering for a teaching job tells you whether you actually want to do this or not, whether this is actually something you want to, that you enjoy doing or not. Because, like I say, I got this job kind of by accident, and it turns out I really like it. But if you volunteer, you're also making links then. So the people that you're working with will become the people that write references for you, which is very valuable. And then you're part of that community of teachers. So the people you're working with might have a job going, which you might know about it before everybody else does, or they might know about other jobs in the community that they can point you towards. So making links is really helpful. And like I say, certainly in the UK, it's not an old boys network or anything like that. It's just a case of knowing where the jobs are, knowing what the jobs entail, recommending people for those jobs, and giving you the skills and the things to talk about in your CV, personal statement, interview that demonstrate that you're the best person for the job, right? And on top of that, if you really love this subject, volunteering to teach gives you an opportunity and an excuse to learn much more about your favourite subject. I think it's self-evident to say that the best teachers are the ones that love their subjects and love talking about their subjects and love sharing this knowledge with other people, because it's the most fascinating topic on the planet, right? You never know everything about your subject. You never stop learning. So teaching gives you an opportunity to learn more. The more knowledge you have, the more valuable you are. The greater your range of skills and depth of skills that you have, the more valuable and desirable you are to an employer, rather than... I know it sounds like I'm recommending you work for free. These jobs are really hard to get. UK universities, a lot of universities around the world, but certainly UK universities aren't in a great place right now. We're seeing a lot of contraction of courses, but I think teaching anatomy to healthcare students is about as solid as you can be. I hope that doesn't come back to bite me in the butt. But you know, we need doctors, right? You need someone to teach them anatomy. And the reason I do so much teaching is because this is a job unlike other academic jobs in that I'm teaching anatomy. There is a lot of teaching. There is not a lot of time for me to do research. But getting experience and volunteering yourself is not just beneficial for the people you're volunteering yourselves to, it is very beneficial to you. But that said, it's also entirely optional. If you're really lucky, you'll have a university nearby that has paid demonstrator posts, and you can come in and get that experience and get paid. But there are fewer of those than there used to be. And often demonstrator posts, like I say, they're filled with doctors who want to become surgeons, who are on their surgical training pathways. Well, that's all the advice I can think of as an employee and an employer. You asked, well, some of you asked. I've done a lot of difficult things in my life, and the PhD is still the hardest thing I've ever done. And don't forget, there are lots of different paths to take in life. There isn't just one correct path. There are lots of correct paths, lots of correct answers. And by getting experience, you go a little way down a path and you try it out, and maybe you decide, I don't really want that one, and I'll go down another one. And that's absolutely fine. And everything adds to you and to your CV and to you as a person and to your experiential knowledge. Experiential knowledge, is that a thing? I just made that up. Right, back to writing supplementary exam questions.